Thank you all for your insights today. Fascinating, amazing, and really relevant for all the advancements in healthcare. So let's dive right in right now. The first question is actually for Jean Claude and Tom. We often talk about AI democratizing healthcare. And so, what are your thoughts on that? And do you see what are the great opportunities for actually advancing towards democratizing healthcare? Jean Claude, why don't you go first?
Sure. I'm going to start with a quick story. So, you live in rural America, wake up in the morning, middle of the night, your child has a fever, and your options are 45-minute drive to some rural clinic that you don't have any attachment to, they don't know you, or a 2.5 hour drive to a large metropolitan hospital that could sort of take care of your kid. You're confident of that, but it's 2.5 hour drive and you don't know what to do. And these are the real stories that happen. And that's how healthcare is not democratized. That person who woke up in the morning does not have access to healthcare the way many others do. This is where AI comes in. These are like specific examples where AI comes in. But it's not AI where you go online and you search for some condition and you get an answer. This is where we have AI that is connected to your medical record, AI that understands everything about you, has access to all of your data, and AI that is also connected to your primary care physician. And and it's through that, and through the example I gave before, and this is the expression of primary care as a service. It's through that expression that we are now able to provide healthcare to all Americans, yet that healthcare is connected to their primary care physician. So when you have the answer, and when you take the action, on the other side of that equation, your primary care physician knows what just happened, and they wake up in the morning and they know that you had a question, that you showed up at a hospital, what happened as a result of that, and now we create continuity of care for you as a patient. So that's why we're excited about it. But also we're all talking about the urgency. This problem is happening every single day, and we need to solve these problems really, really fast.
Yeah. No, thank you. Anytime we can leverage AI to really help those in need who may not have access is going to be powerful. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, is this thing? Yeah, okay, there we go. So I think you highlighted the exact right case, which is this sort of ability to gain access in an acute situation or in a chronic care management situation. And I think that's a big part of where democratization is going to happen. And the costs are going to be lower, and the ability and access to information education will be more ubiquitous. And all those things are happening right now. It's happening faster. Even when we met a year ago and made predictions about what were going to happen, it's happening faster. But I think there are two things that are really important to recognize. One is that in order for that to be truly effective, if you're going to have algorithmic care, you need actually inputs that aren't just like, well, how are you feeling? And I think having kind of a ubiquitous wearable device is actually part of that, meaning that your doctor in the clinic in the middle of the night or your AI in the clinic in the middle of the night actually has some information about what's been going on in the last 24 hours, the last 2 weeks, the last 5 years. And some of that could be medical records, but some of that needs to be physiological data. So I think that's a really important component. I do think that the way you do that is actually we're partnered in one way, which is that your insurance arm, Essence, provides rings to 65 plus year old people who are beneficiaries of their insurance. And the premise is that at 65 plus, you can actually bend the curve on their behavior and see impacts on their health within the next 10 years. And that's a really powerful idea, that behavior, because we know behavior change is what actually leads to prevention. And that's the other side of democratization. Can we make it possible for large populations and motivate and incent them in a way that primary care has been unable to do in the last 50 years to change their behaviors? Sleep better, consume less alcohol, don't smoke, eat more nutritiously, get exercise, the foundations of health. And if we can do that in a way that's both predictive of changing health, but preventative, I think we can have a huge impact on democratizing health.
Hmm.
I'll just
Sure.
add
Go ahead.
one quick thing to what Tom said. We are starting to uncover something that was not obvious, but it's actually really exciting. That 65 plus year old folks are actually using technology. They are getting rings, they are putting rings on their hand, they are tracking their health. We have conversations that Tom is having with Medicare Advantage patients. We listen to them. 93-year-olds having conversations with AI, expressing their entire healthcare status, and actually being excited about the fact that AI will remember everything. And then when they go see the physician, that totality of that conversation, they don't have to remember it themselves, will be expressed to the physician in their EHR workflow. So we are seeing something fascinating, that the demand is there, right? It's on us, all the folks in this room who are doing AI. It's on us to build products that are safe, with guardrails, with learnings from all the failures and the successes. But the demand is there. It's on us to fill that demand.
Absolutely.
I just want to add one more thing on this. It's so important. So the notion that you can have a conversation with your doctor at any time, and maybe a care provider at any time, part of a team, is incredibly powerful. And what's powerful about it is that there's a dimension of human care, which is not just healthcare. It's not just, hey, you should do this, or did you take your blood pressure? It's actually care. And if you've ever listened to any of the Hippocratic AI, automatic nurses, or any of the Dr. Tom interactions, what you see is at the beginning, the patient has skepticism. And then by the end, they're pouring out their heart about how their cat died, or their daughter left them, or whatever. And what you find is that the AI is actually providing a dimension of care that's really distinctly the human dimension. It's I care about you, and I care what happens to you, and I'm listening to you, and I'm infinitely empathic and infinitely patient and infinitely available. And that's another dimension of democratization, which is the human dimension.
No, absolutely, because human in the loop at Agentic Foundry, when we build our agents and agentic solutions for our health and wellness clients, that human aspect really needs to be there, especially since we're talking to patients who are a wide range of ages, and especially the senior care is absolutely fascinating. So I know we're over time, but the second question is key. It's a good segue because we talked about sort of like the consumer patient facing part, the layer, but now let's take a step back and look at the data challenges, right? In order to be able to bring all this to the forefront, we need to look at the fragmented data that we have across ecosystems. And how do we have a world where healthcare is interoperable over across multiple ecosystems? How can we have one single comprehensive view for patients and their care teams and overcome any sort of data challenges? So this second question goes to Vivek and Theo. How do you see the world of fragmented data and bringing it together and connected across different ecosystems? Vivek, you want to go first? Or Theo?
Sure. So I see the problem of silos, of data silos in healthcare, being solved in two ways, and they are both needed. The first one is we need to align and synchronize and make sure that these systems, all these different AI systems that we might be building, and the EHR systems in hospitals or the outpatient clinics, talk to each other in a nice way, and they work very well. And that means like aligning data formats, which it sounds, again, mundane and kind of like, well, so AI should be able to solve it, but it's actually a wicked problem in healthcare. Even between hospitals, sharing data is actually not an easy feat, like as soon as you change EHR platforms. So that's one, but I think that's a difficult but solvable problem. The second one is actually motivating the health systems, the wearable companies, everyone else to start sharing data among themselves, not necessarily giving up IP or just giving patient data freely, but to be able securely to share data for that specific patient once that patient requires it, once that patient asks for it. So in order for us to convince patients that, look, we know that there are risks and we're trying to be as secure as possible in sharing your data, but you're going to get so much more if you let your wearable talk to your doctor, talk to the AI bot, talk to the health system, and that requires buy-in from the patient, and you get that by slowly but surely, I guess, like giving them good insights and then convincing them that that's for the better of their health. but you got to get that. You got to get that trust.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Vivek?
Yeah, let's see. Let me build on Theo's answer in a couple of different directions. So we come at it from a lens of from the R&D side, and the the role of data silos is has some overlaps and some distinctions. One of the things we see is that the previous decade, some of the attempts made um, to encourage data sharing were not aligned with folks' individual incentives, and they took a couple of different forms. One of them was mandates, mandates to force researchers to put their data into deposit them into certain repositories, oftentimes in ways that lost a lot of the value and definitely didn't align with their incentives to do more with it. And then the other one was the kind of data aggregator model that, in some sense, took on the burden of doing a lot of the data preparation to realize more value for, say, use case like pharma commercial, but lost the agency and control that the original data owners had. And so, we have taken a very different sort of mindset to it. It's really about allowing um, data owners to have a lot more control, and then to create an ecosystem uh, that goes faster together because of incentive alignment. And so, one of the things we're doing is really innovating on something called trusted research environment that allows um, a customer of ours like the American Cancer Society, which has just a gem of a national data set in a 1.5 million participants followed over many decades, and making it a lot easier for them with full control, not having data leave their control, but allowing others to come and access both the data and analytical tools needed to do research with it. So that's one example. And we think there's a potential to do a lot more of it. One last thing I'll say about it is that we focus a lot on within sort of data data types, data silos. We focus a lot on the pull being created by the molecularization of medicine. So a lot of newer modalities, multi-omic data, which create new challenges that weren't sort of either contemplated or addressed maybe a decade ago. And so that requires some innovation at the infrastructure and data layers for us.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Thank you to our 4 panelists for all the insights that they shared today. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. We could probably talk about this all day. And I'm going to turn it back over to Adela, but give our 4 panelists a big round of applause.
I think it's an important question. It's hard to predict the future with the speed at which it's going, but I think what's important is to remember the principles. And I think we've been on a journey where technology has empowered creators for a very long time. And I think of a world in which the possibilities of these new technologies is going to empower creators even more. It may mean that there's even more content that may appeal to users. And if anything, I think of my job as trying to find the needle in the haystack, even more so in a place where anybody can create. It's not just something that professional creators need to put a ton of effort and expertise in. You can unlock the creativity of even more people. So I think that's what I focus on. And in terms of the creation with artists, Spotify is a company that has had artists and the creative industry as partners from the inception. And we have partnered even this week with the key players in the music industry. So I encourage you to see what we've announced.
Excellent. So I have 2 points to add here. Specifically, with journalism, I think we have to remember that AI trained on the entire internet. And utilize that information, the facts that are out there, and actually, Business Insider was one of the top results that a lot of the LLMs used. And while AI very much is a tool, the thing that we have to remember is it's derivative. meaning there is an important role that journalism plays in this ecosystem. New information, finding things out, investigations, or what have you, that is very much unique and important to the ecosystem, important to our society. And I think like that very much is how creators, journalists, can utilize it for their process. But that kind of part of it is very important and unique. I think the second thing that I will add is that we had a conversation last year about with will.i.am of the Black Eyed Peas, and we asked him, "Hey, you're a creator, you're creative. How do you justify AI? How do you use it? Why are you adopting it so quickly?" And he was like, "Listen, back in the day when synthetic drums came about, he was like, everybody was like, oh no, I'll never use synthetic drums. They were nervous, they were scared." And he said, literally every song today is produced with synthetic drums, and all of those drummers game producers. And I think what our mindset needs to be in this moment is very much, how do we become, synthetic drumming producers and find the way forward in this new environment?
So we think about this a lot, as you can imagine. I think one model is that designers go from being craftspeople to being art directors, which is a natural kind of moving up the control chain. I think there's an opposite trend where there's, in the history of art and having been in the world of computer graphics for a long time, there's this sort of polish that then gives way to authenticity, where people value the handcraftedness and the sincerity of the work, and then that becomes the style that then gets commoditized and becomes familiar. And then, so I think the fashion cycles will shorten. A genuinely exciting idea will be suddenly everywhere, and then it'll be gone or sort of back in the background. And the really standout creative people will be the ones driving those things that nobody's really seen before, and that become a meme and sort of the defining thing of that year or even that month. I think the other thing that we fall into is there a finite amount of work to do based on the price of doing creative work? And clearly there are only so many $200 million movies you can make in a year because of the funding model and everything. But if it costs $2 million to make a good movie, and it's really about the story and something ineffable about the characters and this sincerity of the script or whatever, some of which might be written by AI, I know, but I think it will dramatically broaden the number of people who have the equivalent of a 16mm camera in their attic and can tell their own story. So whilst there may be way more to wade through, at the same time, there'll be many more sources of inspiring and original work. So I actually think that if you democratize a capability, then it doesn't trivialize it. It really gives the opportunity to reinvent it in a new way within each generation. And people will still know what's hard, and that will be where they'll put their effort. And you'll sort of discount what used to be hard and is no longer hard. And that's just the way it is. And, obviously, humility is the most important thing here. None of us really know, but that does seem how it is. I think the other thing that's intriguing, and this is a bit over the horizon yet, is right now we're still thinking of Gen AI as an author time medium, where we have an authoring tool, we generate stuff, we polish it, we approve it, we ship it. Eventually, you'll have audiences of one, where it's as much about you as it is about the person who authored the experience. And it's that interaction between the two. The best example today would be a really high-end video game. But you could imagine some combination of linear and nonlinear experiences that are manifest as a Gen AI model. That if you just choose to watch it as a couch potato, it'll play the story and the actors will act out the narrative roughly as designed. But if you choose to interact with it, then suddenly it's a rich world and so on. And I think that kind of experience is something few people know how to design today, and we can't quite deliver it. But in some of the early tech demos we're seeing from the big companies, including us, we're starting to see that degree of fidelity and speed that it suddenly becomes the new image format or the new video format. And it's no longer video, it's this other thing, which is not quite a game, not quite a world, not quite a movie. It's, as I once said, like dreaming out loud. And I think that will open up an enormous space for people to contribute, either as single authors or in teams where they each own an aspect of the experience, like they do with movies today.
Thank you. I want to take a question from the audience here, and I want to also mention that this conversation is off the record, so it's a question for you, Ziad. We want honest, raw answers here. How does Spotify treat the privacy of user personal data, which contain private info about moods and preferences?
Well, we treat it with a lot of considerations because privacy is extremely important. And as you can see from my talk, hopefully it's clear that we only need it to serve back the best recommendations we possibly can. So you saw that in the Discover Weekly example, we use the data to try to understand across our own user base how we might understand that if you like Ethiopian jazz of this kind, the best recommendation would be this particular song. So it's all, the recommendation that we use is all within our purview, and it is always used with the goal within Spotify to give you the better experience. And then as we move to generative AI, you saw that I was talking about creating these LLMs that understand the data and predict sequentially the action you might take. So we treat it extremely with all the importance that it is due, and its main goal is to continuously try to improve the value that you can get in a world of millions of possibility for every user. You only get the value if you're connected with the right part of the platform. All of your favorite, I think, you have a favorite song that you have not heard yet. And we are on a mission to try to find it in the millions of possibilities, and looking across our user, looking across the data of a given user and understanding how it relates to everybody else, lets us understand taste. And that's really the journey we're on, to connect the user and the artist using that data.
Thank you. I do feel like we are at time, or can we still do one more question? One. Yes, one quick one for Barbara, a question about like advertising. What are you finding consumers interested in and engage with, given all the AI generated advertising that has been created? Any certain trends that you'd like to point here around the advertising, specifically in the sector of publishing?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to take this as AI in personalization and advertising is something that has been gaining steam. In fact, we do it with our partners at Business Insider. We utilize AI to better serve and best serve the right experiences for our partners and advertisers to the right people. It performs better. It is much more effective. And on top of that, folks interact with it much more. It's contextual and has really upgraded the experience. So I will say it is a good thing that has come to advertising, and it's already having a massive impact.
Awesome. Thank you so much. A big round of applause to our
Thank you, everybody.
And yeah, I know we are in a time crunch, but I'm gonna stick a little bit outside, so yeah, feel free to ask your pressing questions.
Thank you.
Okay, so first question for all three of our speakers. So in your respective worlds, so physical security, identity, and applied AI, what is the hardest human factor to account for when building these secure systems? And Bhavna, how about we start with you?
So let me give you a couple of anecdotes. I was at a developer conference, and one of my slides said that if you're building AI agents, you're accountable. That's all it said. Basically, accountability of what you're rolling out. You're accountable for security. You're accountable for outcome. And after the talk, I had a run of developers, engineers say, we didn't think about it that way. We rolled out our applications, and we didn't think about accountability of what it would say, what the outcome would be. And I said, well, we need to. And for me, it was obvious, but it was very surprising for me to see many engineers not seeing and understanding that. Let's take another example. There's a lot of conversation in the industry that if AI agents does some harm, who's accountable? Who is accountable? So that is at the heart when I think about what is hard here to explain. And it is I find it, working in the industry, why is it so hard to explain? Nonetheless, the truth is it is, which is accountability starts with what you're rolling out, the access controls, and that's why identity is so important, which is without identity, how do you set up that accountability? How do you set up that the thread of like, what's the circle and who's responsible? Because that is so important. If you don't bring that responsibility factor in the application, then how do you create control? How do you create discipline? How do you solve for responsible aspects of things and ethical aspects of things? So I think that is the core as we roll out into the AI systems.
Yeah, that's interesting. Someone asked me the other day what happens if a Waymo gets a speeding ticket. So just what it reminded me of. Rania?
I'd like to add to that. I think one very interesting thing is so my hypothesis is right now, every application is going to be an AI application in the sense that these things are going to be ubiquitous the same way that API and data are, like, not because I love hype, but they're just becoming part and parcel of our computing fabric, right? So in the olden days, code was deterministic. It did what you programmed it to do. And the unpredictable factor was the human element, right? That was what was bringing unpredictability to it. But now with these Gen AI components inside everything, they are also very unpredictable, right? So that kind of changes things and changes how you want to think about the security. So I think we're still learning what that means.
I would just plus one to both of those comments because I think it's just you have to be very thoughtful. I think is the point, and for physical security, again, I think our business is founded on trust. Like people don't let you into their home or put their product in their home if they don't trust you to be responsible, and the consequences are quite real. It's an essential thing that we do. So if you misuse it or you run too fast under pressure from what I would say is healthy competition. We're inspired by the startups and the others who are finding new ways to do things. You can actually frustrate law enforcement if you do things the wrong way and they may not show up as often or as quickly. And the consequence of that is like real impact to lives, to property, to the most valuable things with the most precious people inside. And so I think just moderating the pace, and I use the word pace, not speed, to make sure that you're responsibly rolling out these capabilities in a way people are continuing to hold on to the trust that they have in your brand. So it's just really about judgment as you use AI in every part of your business.
So true. I love that. Okay, we have time for one more audience question. This is the $1 million question, but how do you envision the discussion around security and AI evolving in 10 years, and where do you think we can expect it to go?
10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
So we have to define that. Number one, I think we can accept with the evolution that in 10 years, AI is playing a very key role in pretty much every aspect of our life. And like you said, ubiquitous, I guess, yeah, it's everywhere. So when AI is everywhere, I think number one, and thinking about security, if I am living with AI day to day, I need to be able to trust and make sure that it's doing nothing outside of what I expect, and it's holding all of those key aspects: privacy, security, visibility, data, all of that in check with my, you can say, wishes, right? As simple as that, as a consumer. So the big part in 10 years or even before, I would say, is consumer trust playing a role of defining how much and where AI can share and AI can interact. So that's a big part. The second part, I would say, in now like 10 years is very future. I also want to call out that I'm very excited about robots, AIs, kind of taking care of my dishwashing and laundry. I'm saving money. I'm paying for that all in cash, so I don't care. So definitely that's happening. And the last thing on the AI space that I would call out, especially focusing on security, I think there's a lot of fear, and fear of unexpected unpredictability and what could it do. I've been watching a lot of shows and I'm a sci-fi fan, by the way, and Star Trek is better than Star Wars. Okay, that's out of the thing. But when we talk about those things, it's very important that we can overcome that fear. Now, are we going to overcome that fear as humans because AI is everywhere? Or AI will become so safe, you can say, or so structured that it feels safe? I think that's to be uncovered. We will find out. Right now, there's a lot of fear factor that's going on around it.
I would just say, yeah, 10 years is long, but what I hope happens is people just take it. I mean, you said it earlier, everyone here is interested in this topic. I wish there were even more people interested in it, because it is critical stage of evolution. But I read somewhere that when electricity was first introduced, it was never like automating things inside the factory. It was just simply opening the gate and closing the gate. People hadn't yet thought about like using machines and what that could do. And so I think AI is really at the tip of what it could become. And if we run ahead too fast and stumble too many times, to your point, run with hurdles, it's actually going to slow things down. To me, the benefit to humanity, the benefit to us, is impacted by that. So I hope that we use security as like a well understood thing, like implied in everything that we do, long before 10 years from now, but definitely 10 years from now.
I think back to, hype, hope, and hubris. That's where we are today. It'll get better. I think one thing I've been nervous to say out loud, but I'll try it on this room, is like, I want to make AI boring again, right? If we can solve the middleware layer, then you can think like AI will just be safe and work like the highway works and your car more or less works, right? And that these issues in the middleware, right, the middleware stack is going to grow and adapt to be able to have a first-class representation of AI, so you can secure it like the way you treat the rest of your APIs and data today. And I think we're working on that. But like the CEO of Microsoft made a recent quote that, this is the whole middleware stack has to evolve. However, this is like the internet and databases, and I forget one other foundation technology, were all invented at the same time. And instead of having 30 years to make that adaptation in the software stack underneath your applications, that's happening in 3 years. So this is where we're going to see a big acceleration. And assuming the folks here and others like us working in the plumbing of AI can make that happen, I think we're going to see like these areas merging, where the physical spaces and the digital spaces, you're not going to see that periphery anymore, because the interface is not going to be screens, right? So we'll see from here. But 10 years is an eternity. Like if you had asked me 6 months ago what was going to happen, nobody knows, right?
I love that. Thank you. I kind of love ending this on the note of make AI boring again. So that was perfect. Okay, thank you one more time to all three of our panelists. Thank you so much for being here.
So we've got a couple of quick questions. We're going to go rapid fire. Jean, can I start first with you? T-Mobile, huge organization, deploying out AI, huge challenge. Can you talk a little bit about, and that's questions about productivity and people working together, how does change management look? How should people think about that?
Yeah, at a large organization, sometimes the people changes are much harder than the tech changes. And so in that demo I showed where we kind of changed up and put in AI, literally the ability that it could just go sit into our existing process, and I only impacted kind of my own team and not the teams upstream or downstream from us, and it just fit in. That's what enabled us to basically just like evaluate it and turn it on in about 2 weeks.
Fantastic. Sam, if I go quickly, what has been the hard, and then Kanjin, what has been the hardest part about building your products as time has evolved, as the foundational models have got better? Sam, if you want to go first, and then let's go. Everybody heard what I said when I got on stage.
Yes. Hardest part about building the product is talking to customer. It's the same thing as what's building products even before AI and agents existed, which is talk to your customers, build something that people want, charge money for the product, and iterate on feedback. I think I'd go with that.
Okay, Kanjin?
For us, it's probably actually how do we build something that actually pushes forward what we're trying to do in the world, and how do we make Sculptor something that's open source where we actually want it to be open source over being closed source, where like we feel like we'll win because of that. I think that's an unusual constraint.
Todd, you've spent a bunch of time both as an entrepreneur, helping a number of founders. Your product is going to be helping founders. 2 questions for you to close off. What advice would you give to founders as they're building an AI product? And second, why are you doing this? You really should not be doing this at this stage. What have you got to gain?
Yeah, I mean, I think you really have to have a good, strong position about the future and believe it, because it's changing so fast that you have to be able to have some kind of North Star that you're able to navigate. And pivoting is key as well. So it's like getting those iterations and learning and being able to adjust. I think it's critical also to have that the strength to push back on investors that might be pointing in the wrong direction. I said there's a lot of good advice there, but it's not all good advice. So, and why am I doing this? I really do think it's the only thing that is going to help us navigate the climate challenge. I'm the chair of the board of the Woodwall Climate Research Center. It's one of the leading providers of
Give a round of applause for that, please.
All right.
Thanks very much.
And the scariest language I've heard from some of the smartest people, including Daniela Rus, who was on the board of COP28, is that we are not having the real conversation about climate change. In the room, in the Biden administration, in the room, they're not having the real conversation. It's so much worse than people are talking about. And if, we've got a big issue with AI, but if we get through that and then the place is cooked, it's not a world you want to live in. So.
Okay, thanks for ending on that high note.
Happy to talk more.
But outside of that, each of them will be available. Thank you very, very much for your time. We've got a bit of a tight schedule, but we're going to be moving forward. So thank you very, very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
What does product development look like in a world where anyone can vibe code an app and these models are constantly changing? So we'll maybe start with Sinchan and Ankit. Does one of you want to take a stab at that one?
For sure. One sentence. I think it's less about the engineering to build a product and more about how you connect it to the end users and the specific dynamics of the market, how these clinics work, all that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Prakash?
Speed is not a moat, it's a boat. So I'm quoting someone on Twitter, but basically what you try to do as a startup is you go and build a castle and build a moat. So yeah, really like speed is the advantage here, especially when you're competing against incumbents. So just gotta go really fast and build.
Maria?
So for us, we're looking at search and specifically focusing on the long tail. So we're sandwiched between customer feedback, because that's what they're searching for, and evals. And so the product is essentially just responding to 2 of these signals.
Okay, the next question is around people. So how do you all think about finding the right talent, enabling them, and growing them in this age of AI? Let's start with Berkay this time.
This is something I learned at Coinbase. You want like people who are obsessed with the space. So early days of Coinbase is just like a bunch of crypto heads. In my space right now, it's this like group of people who really like these generative models, and that just solves the problem of motivating them. Essentially, they're just self-motivated, and motivated people can do amazing things.
Since Maria, let's do Maria.
All right. I'll just say that for me, this is like the most fun I've had in my career. And I've done a lot of software. Like this is like nothing else. And what we're looking for is people who feel the same, who just want to learn, who don't want to remember rules of what it used to be and just want to try new things all the time. And so as long as you're open to experimentation and learning, you're a person.
Sinchan or Ankit?
This is one of the other things that we're doing differently. We haven't raised money. We're bootstrapping. We're profitable. And we've decided that a lot of we're operations heavy. We've tried to automate as much of our operations as possible using AI. And we've decided that when we hire people, it'll be because the problems are super interesting and not problems that AI will be able to solve.
Last question. Any one sentence you want to share with the audience? We'll start with Maria this time.
Any one sentence whatsoever? I think that, for me, the most interesting thing is how do you learn to operate in this new world where you have abundant intelligence and so many problems are unsolved. So it's fun and it's interesting and it's really fun to build.
Sinchan or Ankit?
I mean, I think what makes us human in this world of in this age of AI is also the things that we need to focus on. Company building has been a lot of fun, but it would not be that much fun if I were not working with two amazing friends. And so my favorite sentence is, "A friend may well be considered a masterpiece of nature."
Beautiful. And last but not least, Berkay.
I mean, we should just leave it at that, I think. I don't think I can top that. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna steal a little bit, but it's amazing being here. I've seen some friends that I haven't seen in many years, so I hope to come here again and hopefully see them again.
Please join me in thanking one more time Sinchan, Ankit, Berkay, and Maria. And check out their companies. They're doing some really amazing things.